They call it the crowning glory of Ball State's campus. A look at Schaefer Tower here in Muncie. Ball State, Chicago State in women's hoops. Up next. Welcome courtside, everybody. Connor Onion with Corey Stace. Corey, this is a gym in Worthen Arena that's been very kind to Ball State over the past couple seasons.
Well, Ball State definitely feels comfortable here at home on the 3-game road stint that they just came back from Savannah, Georgia. They went 1-2, but the opponents that Ball State has played this season has helped out as well. They look to get 3-0 here at home this season.
A couple of marquee players in this matchup here tonight, starting with Ball State's Mariah Monaco.
Mariah Monaco has had to increase her productivity this season. With the loss of Natalie Fontaine, the Ball State all-time leading scorer to graduation last season, Mariah Monaco has increased that productivity, and she can do it both on down low and on the outside with her three-point game.
And for Chicago State, Shatoya Sanders is as prolific as a scorer as they come.
Well, Shatoya Sanders had a career-high 38 points against a similar opponent to Ball State in Northern Illinois, a fellow MAC opponent. She did that a couple weeks ago. She's going to be need to be a key contributor tonight. She has the athleticism to get around Renee Bennett, who probably will be matched up against her.
With the two stars for both of these teams, they also have some nice pieces around them, especially with some experience.
Yeah, I think both of these teams should come into tonight and this season overall expecting big things with the returning starters that they have. Although Chicago State had the slow 0-6 start, they still need to be confident coming into Worthen.
Chicago State looks for their first win here tonight. As for Ball State, they lost 2 of 3 on their Thanksgiving trip to Savannah. Corey, Ball State played some tough competition down there in Georgia, but they didn't play their best basketball either.
I think that's by design, that Brady Sally always puts tough competition on the non-conference schedule to get Ball State ready for Mid-American Conference play, but as you said, they didn't play their best. East Carolina, a tough loss in overtime, but Auburn, they really got shut down offensively, which normally they're a prolific team.
Same starting lineup as Chicago State has had for their first 6 games. One change for Ball State, as Cardinal fans are used to. No Jill Morrison. She missed the second 2 games of that 3-game swing in Georgia. So Destiny Washington steps in for the Cardinals. Ball State looking to go 3-0 at home, and they win the tap here inside Worthen Arena. Connor Onion, Corey Stace, glad you could join us here in Muncie this evening. Ronde, who's 3rd in the country in assists, feeds Bennett, and she lays it in.
Shatoya Sanders already coming out defensively, guarding Mariah Monaco. It leaves Renee Bennett really down low with no one of her size guarding her of Chicago State.
Ball State with a zone look, and they force a turnover. They're out and running. Lead pass to Washington, and she scoops it in.
We saw Chicago State's transition defense give up a lot of points against Northern Illinois, another MAC opponent that they had on their schedule. They will have one more MAC opponent in Western Michigan coming up, but so far Ball State looks like they're going to try and create turnovers on the defensive end.
Chicago State has run into some hot shooting teams. 3 from Serta from the corner, and the rebound tapped out to Chicago State. The 3-ball could be the equalizer tonight for the Cougars, as they're 0-6 on the season. And a turnover off the hands of Allen. Got to limit the turnovers, though, if they want to stay in it.
Well, Chicago State has struggled with turnovers this season, and Ball State obviously saw something in film that they wanted to attack in that zone defensive scheme. They normally are a man-to-man type of defense.
They will run that full-court blitz, but that's more of a 2-2-1 look. Don't see a lot of half-court zone from this Ball State team. Ball State up 2 buckets. Monaco, the leading scorer, feeds Bennett. She'll be swarming the post all night long, puts it up anyway. Washington offensive rebound, Ball State. Her miss is Washington fighting for the loose ball. She's an aggressive player on the offensive boards, but it goes to Chicago State.
She's a similar player, really, actually a similar build, I should say, to Natalie Fontaine, the all-time leading scorer in Ball State history that just left to graduation last season for Brady Sally. And Sally talked about, she looks a little bit similar to Natalie Fontaine on the floor, but you'll get different skill sets.
She comes up with a nice defensive play here, and then gives it away to Sanders. Perhaps Ball State not feeling comfortable going man with Sanders, who averages 18 per game.
Well, Renee Bennett looks as though she's going to get the designation on Sanders when they do go man, but Ball State is going to do everything in their power to get the ball out of Sanders' hands and make the rest of the Chicago State team beat them.
There's Sanders with her first look, and she rattles it in. She can score from just about anywhere on the floor despite being 6'2".
Already you can see it. She had no hesitation at that mid-range jumper.
Jose, the much improved offensive player, short. Jose 2 years ago as a freshman for Ball State was a defensive specialist. She's emerged and has been great on the offensive end this year as Allen dials up a three and Chicago State has their first lead.
Chicago State wants to get the ball into Allen and Sanders' hands, so expect them to get it all night.
Monaco with the answer for Ball State. Can't give her much wiggle room on the perimeter.
Ryan Monaco is really, she said she was only a three-point shooter last season, and she wants to develop that drive and kick or even that post game this season on the offensive end, but she still has that range and she'll use it effectively throughout the game.
Grande digs it out for Ball State, and another Chicago State turnover. Turnovers have told the story for the Chicago State team so far this season. They force a lot, but they also cough it up a lot. So we get a look at the Monaco three. They force 18 turnovers per game, but give it away 20 times as well. There's Bennett again.
Bennett just clearly has the size advantage down low, and Ball State already runs their offense through Renee Bennett, even without a size advantage, because they like that inside-out kick game. But with a team like Chicago State that just doesn't have the size, Renee Bennett will just catch it right on the block and turn and put it up off the glass.
No easy touches for Sanders. That's what we're seeing so far on the defensive end for Ball State.
Even the shot that she made, Bennett was right in her face at the left elbow.
This Ball State team perfect at home so far, 2-0. Harris, right wing three, flanks off the front. Ball State with that up-tempo look. Jose goes to the rim.
Brady Aselli talked about how it all starts with Carmen Grande. The up-tempo style has to start with the point guard. The sophomore has been put a lot more responsibilities on her this season to make that up-tempo style.
Ball State smoldering defensively, looking for another transition bucket, and Jose is fouled. So Jose going to the free throw line with Ball State up 6 here in the first quarter.
You talked about Jose developing that offensive game. She's really a defensive-minded player, but not only the defense is what she'll bring, but she'll give you some defense with blocking the basketball, having steals on the defensive end, but then also Brady Aselli has relied on her this season to put her on the best player of the opposing team and let her go to work on the defensive end, and she's come up big in games so far this season, and he's really designated her in that role.
Franny Frazier and Morgan Glotchek in for Ball State. And Jose goes 1 of 2. Not an easy thing to do, though, to defend the other team's best player and then try to turn around and be productive offensively.
Well, she's so athletic that she has the length and the quickness to guard those best players on the opposing team, so you can really match her up with any of the 1 through 3 positions on the opposing team because she has the quickness of a point guard. She was a former point guard as a sophomore, but also has the length to defend a small forward.
Frazier rips it away from Chicago State, and a travel on the perimeter gives it back to the Cougars. Frazier also one of those players that's an improved offensive player, mostly known for her defense.
And her effort. She has been, Brady Aselli was quoted as saying that, you know, they like her in that 6th man role coming off the bench as the first player to get in, and not always something good, but something will happen when Franny Frazier gets in the basketball game.
The pick and roll for Sanders, and she has 4 of the 7 for Chicago State. A lot of people coming in here tonight think that on paper Ball State should blow out the Chicago State team, but they've been close with a lot of good opponents.
Exactly. In 4 of their 6 games so far this season, Chicago State coming into Worthen 0-6. They've had those games within a 9-point range, and against Northern Illinois, a team that can compete with Ball State in the Mid-American Conference, they only gave up a 9-point loss.
Ball State extending the pressure full court. Kaylin Nix off the bench for Chicago State. Open three, Allen. Taken away by Serta, and she puts it back.
That's where Chicago State's going to need to dominate this game, is just the extra little plays that they make. That effort play of stripping away Morgan Glatchek when she brought down the rebound and turning it into points on the other end.
Ball State without Jill Morrison tonight, so they look to play in the post with Monaco. She can't finish.
Not an area that Monaco is normally accustomed to. That's a play that's designated for Renee Bennett, who's on the bench right now for Ball State, and it was Morgan Glatchek, the taller player, lobbing it down to Monaco, who last season was a small forward on Ball State, but has transitioned more into that 4 position.
Sanders has the pass slip through her hands. Ball State pushing with Grande. Behind the back to Monaco and 2 wide. So we get our first break. Ball State with the slimmest of margins at 3. 12-9 over Chicago State. First quarter.
In this matchup, Ball State needs to feed the girl down low. That's Renee Bennett, has the clear size advantage over Chicago State, already showing she can get it done with 4 points, only 6 minutes into the game.
Ball State with a 3-point lead, and the pressure again gets to Chicago State, and Grande has a bucket. Connor Runyon with Corey Stace. Ball State by 5 here in the first quarter, and that smothering pressure gets to Chicago State one more time.
And Kaylin Nix even had the right idea on that press. She saw Destiny Harris streaking up the sideline, because Ball State, with that press, they'll take some risk, and you're seeing the full court pressure. Brady Salih talked about it at the very beginning of the season. He thinks this Ball State team is deeper this season, and so he's not afraid to tire his players out, because he'll just sub them in with girls on the sideline that are fresh and ready to go.
It's really the first time in Brady Salih's tenure that they've had a full scholarship of a roster, as a turnover from Destiny Washington gives it back to Chicago State.
Although during this matchup with Jill Morrison out, they need to rely on that guard position with Franny Frazier and Kaylin Jose mostly.
Sanders from deep, recovered by Washington. Grande slicing through. Feeds Jose. Jose with the bunny.
Already you're seeing that pressure put on the offensive end. It's not only the full court press on the defensive end from Ball State, but they continue to get that up-tempo style and press the ball up.
9th turnover for Chicago State. Washington with an easy one on the right side. And Angela Jackson on the Chicago State sideline needs a timeout. Ball State doubling up the Cougars. 18-9, 3 minutes to go in the first quarter.
It's so interesting to see that half-court press that Ball State puts on right away because they have one of their most lengthy defenders in Destiny Washington out atop that press. Normally you'll see a point guard who can defend with the quickness on the top of that press, but with Ball State, they're going to put Destiny Washington with such long arms. She almost has a 6'6" wingspan, even though she only stands at 5'11", so you can see why they put her out at the top of that half-court press, because it makes opponents have to pass around her, and then you have more time to gather around and force the double pressure.
Let's see if Chicago State goes away from Washington. Defending Harris in the corner. Taken away by Frazier, but off her hands, out of bounds.
And once again, you're seeing the double team right at the corner at the half-court mark, and then Franny Frazier has playing a little bit of the free safety in the back, that she just has the freedom to keep an eye on the opponent and judge where she was going to pass the ball.
Harris, the Iowa Western Community College transfer, up top to Allen. Down to 10 to shoot. Serta slides it into the lane. Allen with a tough catch. Now Allen hoists it up and it rattles down. Tough catch and tough shot for Allen. Has Chicago State back within 7. Now Grande downhill for Frazier and pops out.
Even when Chicago makes a basket, you're seeing Ball State still apply that fast tempo style on the offensive end.
Sanders puts the clamps down on Bennett, gets it back. Frazier, she's fouled at the rim.
That's an area that Franny Frazier has always brought to this Ball State team from her freshman year to her junior year. She will always attack the basket and get to the free throw line because she has a little bit of an out-of-control style, but it works because she's so athletic and she can get through 2 defenders, and she is good at selling the foul.
Athleticism's never really been a problem for her. It's been the skill development that Ball State has really emphasized with her. With her athleticism, she was getting looks from schools like Ohio State.
I think she's developing into her role here at Ball State as well, because she knows now that she isn't going to be that player that puts up 20 points a night. She's going to be a player that gives you so much energy on the defensive end and can make something happen on the offensive end when she's hot.
No look pass taken away, Monaco. Ball State with that depth can probably play this pressure for most of the night against the shorthanded Chicago State team. Frazier off from 10. Chicago State dresses just 8 players here on the road tonight. The roster features 9. Harris a right wing jumper. Short to Washington.
Ball State's being so aggressive in the passing lanes defensively, trying to create turnovers that they're leaving those open shots.
Look at the Euro step from the Spaniard Grande.
Well, that's what you'll get from a Spanish player, is the Euro step that she brings, and she'll showcase that 2 or 3 times a game.
Allen splits in. Looked like a walk, got it back. And then snuffed out by Washington. Grande again with her head down. With the notion of a 3 from Monaco. Clips the front of the rim and bounce to Washington, who lays it in.
And 3 players for Ball State on the offensive end, crashing the offensive boards. That time it was Franny Frazier that tipped it to Destiny Washington for the easy lay-in, but you're only seeing 2 players for Ball State get back in transition defense.
Allen looking to find Sanders, nothing there. Sanders has had 2 bodies on her all night. And then Grande fouled from behind by Allen.
Every single time Ball State gets the ball, you're hearing Brady Sally, the head coach on the sideline, yelling, go, 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 and that's just a trigger to Carmen Grande, as you see there, getting a little bit too ahead of herself on the dribble, but likely a cause of that pressure from Kaylee Allen on the other side.
And Ball State pushing the tempo here tonight, already with 8 fast break points, none for Chicago State. Sizable advantage in the paint as well, 18-4 Cardinals. Ball State can hold for the final shot here.
This is a situation where they'll hold the ball outside, and then once it gets around that 10-second mark, then they'll look for Renee Bennett down low if they can set up a set for her.
Well, never mind.
But not on this play.
Through the hands of Bennett. Now Chicago State gets a chance with the shot clock off.
And it was unusual to see Bennett step out that corner to try to create offense instead of staying down low on the block.
Down to 5 to Sanders. She's fouled, but can't convert. Corey, she loves to get to the free throw line. That's how she's compiled most of her points this season, averaging 18 per game. She's taken 40% of the Cougars' free throw attempts.
Well, she does it multiple ways. She's an athletic center out on the floor for Chicago State, being the tallest player, but she can also step out and hit the jump shot. So you have to defend her at 15 feet, but then when she drives, she's going to try and create contact, and then right on that last play, she put the pump fake up to get Monaco in the air.
Sanders gets 1 of 2, final seconds for Grande. And that shot is too late. Multiples of 12 up on the scoreboard. Ball State 24, Chicago State 12 at the end of 1. We're back to Muncie after this. Once in a while, I mean, Ball State by 12 at the end of 1 over Chicago State. It's been the 1-3-1 unorthodox defense of Ball State that has forced Chicago State into 10 turnovers.
Well, in that half-court trap for Ball State, they've shown that they have the capability of gambling on the defensive end with the length that they have from Franny Frazier, Destiny Washington, Caitlin Jose. That's exactly what they've done, is they've created and stepped into those passing lanes. You can get hurt by that, but so far it's fared well for the Cardinals.
Ball State 24, Chicago State 12. And Ball State offensively has been pretty efficient as well. Hasn't just been the defense.
Well, they've done that by pushing the tempo and getting fast breaks. We mentioned earlier that they had 8 fast break points in the first quarter. They wanted to get the steals on the defensive end. It was clear that they came out with that scouting report on Chicago State, and then they push it into the fast tempo style on the offensive end and get to the basket. We've already seen Carmen Grande lead that charge for Ball State, and she's had a lot of assists in transition.
Chicago State with the first crack offensively in the second quarter. They're down 12, looking for their first win here in 2016-17. Sanders pops the three. Not this time. Mentioned that she has that range as a center at 6'2". Ball State's made it difficult for her tonight.
Well, they've done it with zone pressure in the half-court sets, but then they've also went man-to-man and made her life a little bit difficult so far.
Washington's been hard to deal with for Chicago State. She now has 6 for the Cardinals.
Right now with the 14-point deficit for Chicago State, the run needs to come right now because the Cougars can't get into that mindset that they'll wait until the second half. They've had a struggle so far this season with slow starts.
Slow start came against Northern Illinois. Serta, 3. Against Northern Illinois, they ran into a hot shooting Huskies team in DeKalb. Foul from behind on Grande. The Northern Illinois team hit 6 threes in a row in the opening 3 minutes of that game. Not much you can do at that point.
Exactly, and it's a result of the transition defense that Chicago State plays. They also try to play an aggressive type of defense that creates turnovers, but at the same time, you're going to get open shooters, and obviously Northern Illinois was able to create and find those open shooters in the early parts of that game, but in the end, it seemed like Chicago State played at a tempo that they weren't accustomed to, and that was a much faster pace.
Bennett again on the twirl, too strong. Rebound back to Ball State. Ball State will see that Northern Illinois team twice in conference play. Here's Monaco from the elbow. Rebound to Thomas for Chicago State. The Northern Illinois team has very talented guard and Allie Lehman. Serpa for 3. She knocks it down. She's 2 for 2.
Serta, once she gets hot, that's a good sign for Chicago State, just with the fact that they have an outside shooter. They've struggled in that area so far this season with only 29%.
And a Ball State turnover. Chicago State lingering around within 8.
We're seeing a different team from Chicago State so far in the second quarter because they're not turning the ball over on the offensive end. When you get shots up on the basket, that's the biggest key because you're not turning the ball over and giving Ball State extra possessions.
And of course, the great equalizer, the 3-point buckets from Serta. Sanders smothered in the post, wheels in and fouled on a charge. Washington in to take it for Ball State.
Sanders will always take that foul, though. I think she loves to attack the basket so much that she created the pressure with Destiny Washington, and she gambled with whether Washington was moving in the post or not. That time, the officials ruled that Destiny Washington was set on the left block.
Very tough to take a charge this day and age in college basketball. That restricted area continues to lengthen away from the basket.
And I think that it's tough for the officials as well to get accustomed to that restricted area. It's become a bit of a automatic blocking foul when you get down low in the paint. It almost seems like in college basketball, because of that restricted area, players don't really know where to set their feet, and I don't think players are really thinking about the restricted area when they're getting ready to take a charge.
Thomas thought about the 3, gets it to Harris. It's kind of like a couple years ago in college basketball, once the 3-point line was extended, you had 2 lines on the floor. Harris 3, short. Offensive rebound, Thomas. Harris steps into a three for Chicago State, swirls off to Washington. Grande sprints to the rim. Can't finish.
Very fast tempo in the second quarter with created by Carmen Grande on the offensive end for Ball State, but then Chicago State right there getting the ball out of their hands quickly, and they're doing it from the three-point line.
Gives Serta another. She now has 11 for Chicago State on 3 threes. Ball State up by 7. This last 4-minute stretch heavily favoring Chicago State here. Now Bennett, they go back to their 6'5" senior.
Well, that's too easy, Connor. Renee Bennett on the right block, only one defender there for the Cougars, and they had no real help coming anytime soon, and Renee Bennett just had to take one dribble and back up to the basket, and now you see Ball State continue to put their fast tempo style in the fast break.
Grande 1-on-5, couldn't convert and gets it back, and a Serta foul for Chicago State.
Chicago State didn't like the fact that Carmen Grande touched that basketball after coming from out of bounds, but you see the offensive rebounds for both teams, really.
Good dive.
Coming up and creating extra possessions for the offense.
Another Ball State turnover.
Bit of a sloppy game so far. I think that both teams are trying to put that defensive pressure on so much that they're creating turnovers, but the offense isn't being careful on the other end because they're trying to move the basketball too fast.
We're not even to halftime yet, and these two teams have committed a combined 19 turnovers. Harris circles in and line drives it off the glass.
It's a tough shot by Harris to wheel around pretty much from the left baseline and gets it off the glass somehow, and with a line drive like that, it's tough with the angles.
But Monaco with the answer. I don't think I'd want to play either Harris or Monaco and Horse.
I don't either, because Monaco is so good from the three-point line, but also on the basketball floor, she can go down and be in the paint as we saw in the first quarter. So
off the Serta miss, a Grande turnover. 10-point lead for the Cardinals. Chicago State trying to hang in. They've never beat this Ball State team in 12 tries. A jumper from Cliff rolls off the rim, but she gets it back.
Another second possession opportunity, and this is where Chicago State needs to capitalize if they want to crawl back into this game down 10 so far. They need to capitalize on their second chance opportunities.
Great hands from Grande. Ball State with tempo again. Washington clear path to the bucket. Washington's on her way to a big night. She has 12 points, 4 minutes till halftime. Serta dribbles off the foot of Washington. Harris can't save it. Ball State back up by 12, 3 minutes, 44 seconds until halftime here on E3. Welcome back to Muncie. Ball State 35, Chicago State 23. We're approaching halftime. It's been the Carmen Grande show so far, facilitating offensively for the Cardinals, Corey.
8 assists already in the first half. She's tried to pass the ball almost too much. She does have 5 turnovers, but she's shown the shiftiness moving through the defense as well to the basket, scoring on the offensive end, not only passing the ball.
We're not even to the break yet, and she's at her average 8 assists per game. And without her on the floor, a turnover for the Cardinals. They have 10. Bree Simon in for the first time.
And the 5 turnovers for Carmen Grande accompanying those 8 assists is why Brianna Simon checked in off the bench at that point guard position. Carmen Grande has struggled with turnovers so far this season, and when that happens, Brianna Simon checks right in to control the basketball.
Nick's wide open 3 is short. Rebound hauled in, Jose. Frazier to the 10, gets the roll.
You see a lot of people at home may have thought that was a charging foul, but when a player tries to avoid the contact, you saw the sidestep or the Euro step from Franny Frazier on the fast break. It's almost impossible to stop. You just have to hope that Franny Frazier misses the basket, because that's not going to be called the charging foul, but it's not going to be called the blocking foul, even though contact was created.
Ball State largest lead at 14. Chicago State has played a bunch of close games this season. 4 of their 6 losses have come by less than 10. Harris at the buzzer. It is long, offensive rebound, ripped down by Frazier after Harris had corralled it. Simon, not much of an offensive threat, skips it, Jose, steps into a jump shot, and can't get the roll. Offensive rebound to Bennett, and she travels on her way to the bucket.
She shuffled the feet down low, even though she got the offensive rebound. She simply got the offensive rebound from just standing on the right block, and she has so much size against Chicago State that she's able to produce offensive rebounds with just standing and collecting the basketball off the rim.
Foul on Ball State. That's the trade-off that you have with this full court pressure. Start making those gambles, you can get into foul trouble, but fortunately for the Cardinals, they haven't yet tonight. And Frazier whistled for the personal. So Frazier gets her second. Right as I say, no foul trouble for Ball State. Franny Frazier has 2 and has to come out of the game for Destiny Washington.
And that's where you'll see so many different lineups from Brady Sallee. A lot of times Mariah Monaco out on the floor is in the power forward position, but now she transitions more into her comfort zone at the small forward, and Brianna Simon is at the point guard, and Kaylin Jose just moves right over to shooting guard with Franny Frazier out.
Serta drives in, leaves it for Cliff, taking away Washington. Washington has had a nose for the ball tonight. Here's Jose with the finger roll.
Jose just continues to show her athleticism on the offensive end. She's can play really any guard position, and that's why this team is so versatile, because each player on the team can shift positions. It's almost that Warriors style of basketball that's turning into basketball in the NBA. That's the positionless basketball. You continue to hear the phrase.
Amazing. 2 years ago, Ball State didn't have a point guard. Serta, left wing 3. Too strong, rebound Jose. Remember 2 years ago, Shelby Justice, who was a natural 2 guard that had to run the point for Ball State before Carmen Grande got here. Backdoor pass, Bennett, a beauty from Jose. How about that look?
Well, Jose was a point guard her sophomore year as well. You talked about Shelby Justice. Jose stepped into that role, and she's showing that not only Carmen Grande can collect some assists out on the floor tonight for Ball State.
Nix knifes through, contested, shot is an air ball. 30 seconds to go until the half. Ball State looking to lengthen the lead. Pretty 2-man action from Jose to Bennett.
Anytime that Carmen Grande has struggled in a game this season for Ball State, Jose has just stepped right in off the bench and taken almost that point guard mentality, and you see it there in transition. She's able to just drop it off to Renee Bennett for an easy find, and she's really been the X factor all season for the Cardinals.
Chicago State holding for the last shot. Pick and roll to Cliff. Cliff, as time expires, travels, and we go to break. with the score. Ball State 43, Chicago State 23. Carmen Grande, Destiny Washington, and this Ball State defense all over Chicago State.
Ball State getting it done in the fast break with Kalen Jose as the X factor.
Strategically placed by Charlie Cardinal. All right. Wait a moment here, allow them to get their blindfold set. You ready, Alex? Charlie, you Wiley Gordon.
Yeah, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Spinning, and then they are in search of the megaphone. Fans, feel free to help them.
Welcome back. We're at a score of 43-23 Ball State. Ball State SportsLink gives its members exclusive access to the best stories in Ball State sports, but nothing compares to actually being a part of that team. Aaron Hepp gets the best of both worlds in the latest SL feature.
From the day I stepped in here to the day I'm leaving, I'm a totally different player and a totally different person.
When we came in freshman year, he was a completely different Hep. You know, he's a little more mellow, just trying to get his boundaries of everything. But yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a fun guy to be around.
I think guys can kind of look at me on the team and they know that I'm going to do the right thing. I started back in 2nd grade. I played flag football for 1 year, and then I played St. Simon CYO football till 8th grade. And then high school football at Chittard, and now college at Ball State. I started my career as a walk-on, so it was kind of like I met with the coaches. They came to my high school. They said I could walk on, and all I really had was just a chance, was just a shot, and I just came in every day and worked, did the right thing.
Me and Hep came in. We walked on together our freshman year, so. We were kind of the scared freshmen. We were both little, you know, we were nobodies at that time, but as we've evolved into the program and we've kind of made an impact here, it's kind of a special thing to, you know, we've arrived, we've made it, you know, we've accomplished what we want to accomplish here.
On the field, I guess I'm coachable, so I have a willingness to learn new things, and I think that's one of the only reasons why I'm playing is because I took coaching and developed myself.
He's energetic. He always brings a lot of emotion. You know, if someone makes a big play, he's the first one right there to jump in their face. You know, say good job, pat him on the butt, that kind of a thing. A lot of fun to play with because he always keeps everybody up no matter what's going on in the game.
My dad was a telecommunications major from Ball State, just like I am. So I guess coming here, it was just the right fit academically. It was kind of close to home, and then the football piece on top of it. I felt like I could play. I felt like I could earn playing time, and I've always loved sports. It's kind of a way that I guess when I'm done playing, when my athletic career's over, digital sports production is a way I can stay in sports. The Hep Cam is kind of me just being me.
We're here at the bed races, one of Ball State's greatest traditions. One of the only traditions where people will ride a bed down the road with a lot of potholes.
I probably have a little more weird in me than most people.
My hashtag Keep Ball State Weird initiative.
We tried it once and I guess it worked and we kept doing it.
Hi, I'm gonna be real honest. Horrible effort, hard to watch. Both wheels looked like they weren't working right.
I mean, I guess it's just me acting like me on camera and I have fun doing it. When I think of Ball State, it's gonna be happy. It's gonna be happy thoughts. A lot of great days here. Place has definitely changed my life.
And Aaron just wrapped up his senior season playing football here at Ball State. He's also right now on his last broadcast as a member of Ball State Sports Link. There's Aaron right there looking happy on his last night. If you know this guy, he's such a character, brings light to every room. Aaron, thank you for everything you've done with us. You're definitely going to be missed. We'll be right back after this break to take a look at first half stats.
Thank this year's members of the Cardinal Park Club. Team doctors to keep players healthy. Visit CIOcenter.com to learn more about the specialists who treat our elite athletes. First Merchants is open.
He's not on his headset. I'm doing this stats.
This year, the next Burger King family game is this Saturday. State students and employees, just show your Ball State ID and get low prices on great brands like Michelin, Bridgestone, Goodyear.
And welcome back to Ball State women's basketball versus Chicago State women's basketball. We're at 43-23 Ball State. Here's a look at a few stats from the first half. Ball State is leading in field goals, rebounds, assists, but not the three-point field goals and the points in the paint. I talked to Chicago State head coach Angela Jackson earlier this week, and she did say they were on the lookout for those offensive stats that Ball State was going to put up. She mentioned that her team needed to play tough defense, especially in the middle with Mariah Monaco, who we have seen as a powerhouse holding down that paint. We'll have these stats for a little bit longer. We're going to take another break here, and Corey Stace will join me to take a look at highlights. Yes. I feel like we should do a dance or something. Everyone's looking at us. Yes, I can. And welcome back, Allison Luthman, Corey Stace. Corey, we just took a look at a few of the stats from the first half. Now we're going to take a look at some of the highlights. So from your perspective, what are some of the things that really stood out to you in the first half of this game?
Well, the key so far for Ball State has been the up-tempo style of play on the offensive end. They've forced a lot of turnovers on the defensive end, and that's sparked them into their transition offense. But when they've had the time, they've gotten into their half-court sets and gotten the ball down to Renee Bennett. But Carmen Grande, she had 8 turnovers, she had 8 assists in the first half, 5 turnovers, but she's been the cognizant in that fast tempo style of the offensive play, and that's what sparked really the Ball State fast break points.
And Coach Jackson did tell me that one of the setbacks that her team has, they gave a lot of second chances. Are you seeing that that's helping out Ball State tonight?
Well, I think Ball State and Chicago State are both getting a lot of second chance opportunities. We've seen both teams crash the offensive boards, but we have seen Ball State get a lot of second chance opportunities when they are in the half-court set. That's when Chicago State needs to lock down defensively and get those defensive boards.
All right, thank you, Corey. We'll be right back after this break with Corey Stace and Connor Onion.
Halftime, Connor Runyon, Corey Stace back with you. Ball State 43, Chicago State 23. A lot of lethal scores on both of these clubs tonight. Shatoya Sanders being the most notable, averaging 18 per game. She's been subdued in the first half, Corey.
Well, she only had 5 points for Chicago State. So, as you said, she's a double-digit machine in the scoring column. But Ball State, really, we've seen them defensively key in on her and let the other players beat them on the offensive end.
Add to the double-figure totals for Renee Bennett and Destiny Washington, 10 points and 12 points, respectively, in the first half.
Well, when you talk about Renee Bennett and Destiny Washington on that offensive end, The fast break points for Destiny Washington have been the key, but when Ball State gets in the half-court set, that's when they go down to Renee Bennett, because Bennett's at 6'4". She's not going to be the biggest contributor when they try to push the tempo and get in transition, but when they settle down in the half-court sets, that's when they will almost always give the ball down low to Renee Bennett.
Brady Sally in charge of this Ball State program that's been to the postseason 4 straight seasons in a row for the first time in program history. 14th year head coach for Chicago State, Angela Jackson. It's been a struggle since the 2010-2011 season, but this Chicago State athletic department has had a ton of trust and a ton of patience with her.
Yeah, and it's rare to see a head coach staying in one program for 14 seasons, so you have your ups and downs, and since they've moved into the Western Athletic Conference, they've really had some struggles, has Chicago State, as they only have a 3-41 combined record in conference play during this past 3-year tenure, but Angela Jackson, the university has showed a lot of trust in her at that head coaching helm.
Well, they can make a lot of those horrors go away here tonight if they can surmount an unbelievable comeback down 20 points at the half. Trying not to fall for the 13th straight time to Ball State. Grande, the point guard, with the opening possession for the Cardinals.
I'm sure Brady Sally talked to Carmen Grande at halftime, telling her to limit down on those 5 turnovers that she had in the first half.
Well, there's one for Washington. And that's what allowed Chicago State to hang in during stretches in the first half. They had it down as close as 8 in the second quarter and led for a few minutes in the first quarter. Ball State went on a tear in points in transition after that.
For Chicago State, I think they just need to get back to their bread and butter, and that's feeding Shatoya Sanders down low. Although Renee Bennett is guarding her and she has the size advantage, try and spread Sanders to the outside and see if she can drive using her athleticism over Bennett.
Allen, the sharpshooter. She was also limited in the first half. Only had 5 points as well. Here's Sanders with 2 to shoot. Off Washington's hands. But a shot clock violation gives it to the Cardinals.
Well, instead of spreading Shatoya Sanders to the outside, they chose to give her the ball down low on the right block, and she was met by 2 Cardinal defenders. So it was a tough matchup for Sanders, and she decided to pass at the last second.
The officials congregated after the initial call and give it back to Chicago State with 1 to shoot. Allen gets fouled and is bailed out with 1 to shoot.
It just can't happen on the defensive end. Mariah Monaco credited with the foul, and Brady Sally has to be frustrated with that. It almost looked like Destiny Washington. She did pick up the personal foul. Monaco was standing there with her hand straight up, but Washington, you saw her right arm there in the replay try to sneak in and tip that ball away. There's no need to try and tip the ball away. Just play defense and let Kaylee Allen make a tough bank shot if she so chooses on that inbounds play, and just play with your hand straight up, not committing the foul with 1 second on the play clock.
Never easy in the second half to shoot free throws on this end for an opponent. That Spirit Band can be relentless. She goes 1 of 2. First points of the second half go to Chicago State. Grande down the baseline, lobs for the 6'5" Bennett, and that's easy work for her.
Well, even on that pass from Carmen Grande, you see why she has some turnovers. She just trusts Renee Bennett to come down with that ball in the block, and that time it worked out for her 9th assist on the game.
Allen straight to the rim, too strong. Rebound Washington. On that last possession, Bennett now up to 12 points. She's turned into an offensive juggernaut for this Ball State team after being a little bit limited offensively, to say the least, 3 years ago as a freshman. Let's get past Monaco 3, short. Chicago State 0-6 on the season. They have never beaten Ball State.
Destiny Washington, we've already seen the impact that she's had. You mentioned Kaylin Jose on the defensive end, but Washington with a double-double even tonight, only in the third quarter, at the very start of the third quarter, that is, with 12 points, mostly from the fast break in transition when she's that power forward that can really run the floor for Ball State, but then also
you've seen her crash the offensive boards and the defensive boards, and she can be that rebounder that Ball State needs because they need to collectively replace Natalie Fontaine in the boards category, and that comes from both Renee Bennett and Destiny Washington, who see significant time.
Is that better for Ball State to not have just one person that they rely on for most of their scoring?
I think it definitely makes them more balanced, and Brady Salih has talked about it, that he's had to replace 3 all-time leading scorers in his coaching career. So he's accustomed to it, and this team has the depth around Natalie Fontaine even last season to replace her, and you get girls like Kaylin Jose and Destiny Washington stepping into bigger roles this season for the Cardinals.
The officials had to go over to the monitor to check how much time is on the shot clock. They put it at 16. It's weird to say that, though, Corey, that you lose one of the best players in program history and you may have gotten better. Ball State hanging in defensively here. High archer for Harris. Ripped down by Jose.
And to that point, I think the mentality has changed on this Ball State team, because every single player that comes back from last season takes it upon themselves to replace Natalie Fontaine, and they know that one player is not going to do it. They have to do it collectively. So talking with a lot of players on this team, like Mariah Monaco and Carmen Grande and others, they've said that they feel the pressure to actually replace Natalie Fontaine, and they know that it's going to be a collective effort from the team.
Jump ball to Chicago State. Natalie Fontaine has taken her game overseas. You see the tie-up between Allen and Washington. Every time you look up, it seems like Washington's around the ball tonight.
And you love to see that look in her eye, too. Washington's such an aggressive player. She'll go after any defensive rebound. She's a player that takes some things personally, and you need that type of player on a team. When you have someone with that mindset, I think it helps a team be more aggressive.
Grande to the forecourt. Bennett posting on Sanders. Spins baseline and lays it in. She has gotten pretty much every single thing that she wants down there on that block tonight.
And you love to see Renee Bennett working on those post moves down low, because she can catch and just look to the basket and shoot the basketball, but when she has to spin around a defender, that's what's going to help her come conference play.
Grande zooms forecourt and lays it in for Washington.
Well, Grande's 10th assist already today, and she has just been all over the place, passing the ball and really showing out for the Cardinals.
Timeout, Angela Jackson in Chicago State.
Renee Bennett has been the key offense for the Ball State Cardinals. When they're in the half set, go to Renee Bennett. She's had the clear size advantage over the Chicago State Cougars.
It's almost fun time.
Kanye West time?
Yeah. Ball State by 25 in the third quarter. Carmen Grande has 10 assists. There are her parents from Madrid, Spain. Not a short trip into Muncie, Indiana.
Not at all, and it's a special opportunity for Carmen to play in front of her parents. You know she's going to have to relish at this opportunity, and having her parents fly all the way from Madrid, Spain to come watch her play. The first college game that they've been able to attend.
There at the end of that shot, looked like she was asked to sign an autograph. Lay in for Monaco plus a foul. We'll have to check on that after the game. When you talk about the evolution of Carmen Grande and coming over last year as a freshman, as Washington sets up the bucket to Monaco, but a clear language barrier with her and Lucia Fernandez coming over as native Spanish speakers. Not an easy task to be a point guard when your natural language is Espanol.
Yeah, it's tough to be a freshman point guard, period. Stop there, let alone coming from Madrid, Spain, and missing your family, and then you throw in that she didn't speak that much English. She spoke some and was the better of the two at English, but she had to really take control of the team.
Monaco to Jose. Jose loses it on the way up, but a foul.
Jose, that's one of those fouls that she kind of just shrugged her shoulders. I don't think she was even touched on the play, but shrugged her shoulders, and she'll step to the free throw line for two if she needs to. We'll take another look whether she was touched. Nope.
So a ghost foul on Chicago State. Kind of sounds like the trip to Savannah for Ball State women's basketball. They went on a ghost tour in Savannah. I was creeped out just seeing the pictures.
Some interesting stories came of that ghost tour.
Mariah Monaco, who had that last bucket for Ball State, said that she had never seen a man wearing leggings, but that was the first time. Had to go to Georgia to do it.
And also, we found out that Savannah, I guess, is one of the most haunted places in America, the tour guide said to the women's basketball team.
Wonder if it has anything to do with Sherman marching his men down there during the Civil War. Ball State by 30. And still nothing doing for Sanders, the leading scorer for Chicago State. Still only has 5, well below her average of 18 per game. There goes Monaco into the scorers table.
So much pressure, so much activity with the hands of the Ball State defenders. That's what caused that ball to travel out of bounds, was just so many players were active on the defensive end, and I'm sure Brady Selly loves it on the sidelines.
Chicago State in danger of falling to 0-7 tonight, and a turnover doesn't help matters. Allen, not realizing the shot clock situation, turns it over.
Well, actually, there's a foul on Carmen Grande, and that's twice now that Ball State, at the very end of the shot clock, has fouled and bailed Chicago State out.
Ball State on a massive run dating back to the first half. 3 from the left corner goes down for Thomas. And that stops the 24-1 run for the Cardinals.
With a 27-point lead, Brady Selly's the type of coach for Ball State that he doesn't let up. He still wants to implement his strategy into these Ball State players, so they will continue to push in transition and apply defensive pressure.
Especially with Ball State having a couple of big non-conference games coming up. Thomas again, sinks it.
Well, that's an area for Chicago State that they have been effective so far, and it's really kept them in the game. We saw a stretch of 3 made threes from Jessica Cerda in the first half, and now in the second half, 2 made threes on 2 straight possessions for the Cougars.
Long skip past Jose. The three-pointer has kept Chicago State in the game at times as Bennett has it go off her hands. Ball State a little bit disabled from beyond the arc without Jill Morrison. They shoot about 11% worse from distance without her. Out 10 to 14 days with a shoulder. More on that after this break. Cardinals 54, Cougars 30, 4:34 to go here in the third quarter.
Ball State extending this 24-point lead. They have really done a nice job of applying defensive pressure, and not only on the offensive end. When they get into the half-court sets, they've been effective with that girl right there, Renee Bennett, in the center of the screen, but they've also found different ways to apply pressure, and they've really kept Shatoya Sanders, the top player for Chicago State, out of this game.
And with this game seemingly in hand, we've had this one queued up for a little bit. Kanye West, a graduate of Chicago State, checked out of the hospital yesterday, got his honorary degree from Chicago State.
Well, his honorary degree, he actually dropped out of Chicago State, and in doing some research, Kanye West actually studied English at Chicago State. His mom was the chairman of the English department, so you have to think that Kanye West maybe passed up on a free education at Chicago State, and well, what did he do after that? Well, I think he's done just fine. I think he could pay for his education if he wanted to go back at any point.
To all those that know Kanye best, Corey Stace knows Kanye West.
I knew you'd pull out some rap line from Kanye West to make things interesting on me.
If we come back on camera post-game, I might have a little something more for you. Also, Gerald Ford, a Chicago State alum.
And Gerald Ford, the former president of the United States, once Richard Nixon stepped down.
And he was not a crook.
But an honorary graduate. I don't really know what the case is with all these honorary graduates from Chicago State, but Gerald Ford actually went to Michigan and played basketball
or football.
She played football, but also a tie to Chicago State. And that head coach Angela Jackson in her 14th season was an associate head coach at Michigan for 2 years. So there's ties all around the Chicago State and some famous people around the country.
I feel like I just sat through a graduation ceremony on the south side of Chicago.
Well, we hope that you learn at least something on the broadcast. That's our goal as we step out.
Nothing obscure about it.
If you take anything away from this broadcast, you'll know that Gerald Ford and Kanye West both got honorary degrees at Chicago State University.
But did not graduate from Chicago State. Kind of like an outstanding citizen award, if you can call Kanye West a model citizen. Ball State 54, Chicago State 30. 4:34 to go here in quarter number 3. No, probably not. Chicago State into the half court. Just trying to make something out of this blowout as Sanders gets to the rim. Still tough going for her. And then a turnover to Monaco. Grande has run the show efficiently all night. Feeds Monaco. She finally gets a 3 to go.
Well, that's exactly what Brady Sally wants to see from his point guard, Carmen Grande. She realized that the fast break was not there for Ball State, and she backed it out into the half-court set, but then found Mariah Monaco right on the right wing for a quick 3.
Sanders turnaround jumper, thuds off the front of the rim.
Ball State, you're still seeing a lot of the primary core of starters in this game for Brady Sally. So really it's almost turning into one of those practices for Ball State where they can get some extra reps against some opposing competition with non-conference games like Butler and Purdue, some tough competition coming up on the schedule.
Now one against Butler at 2 o'clock on Sunday. Sanders, high degree of difficulty. Another thud. One part of Grande's game as Ball State turns it over. One part of Grande's game that she has worked tirelessly at is her jump shot. Haven't seen her convert much this season from the field. She hasn't really had to. She hasn't really had to put up many shots when she's creating the way that she has for her teammates.
Yeah, and she's third in the nation coming into today in assists, so she's created for her other teammates, but it is an area I know that Carmen Grande would like to get going in her game and wants to get going for Mid-American Conference play is that three-point game. She was very effective at the end of the season for Ball State, shooting the three-pointer, and so far this season, 0 of 7.
Remember that Bowling Green game on the road last year as Frazier slices in. She had 18 in that game against the Falcons in Bowling Green, Ohio. And that's when she kind of started to turn the corner as a shooter. When she came in, she had that awkward side spin, kind of Joakim Noah-esque, as Jose has an easy path to the bucket.
Well, you could even go so far as Carmen Grande was the best three-point shooter statistic-wise in Mid-American Conference play last year for Ball State. Jill Morrison, Mariah Monaco, the more the players that take more threes, but Carmen Grande was 38% compared to only shooting 21% in non-conference play.
Sanders breaks free, can't finish the bunny.
You still have to like the fight that Chicago State's showing, getting second chance opportunities at the basket.
Allen through traffic is fouled.
Not only second chance opportunities, but on that possession, they got 3 chances at a score, 2 from Sanders, and now Kaylee Allen heads to the free throw line after attacking the basket.
So Allen to the line with subs at the table for Ball State. Alana Aguirre with her warm-up off for the first time.
You don't normally see Ball State going to the end of their bench with Alana Aguirre and Aaliyah Walker, players that I think Brady Sallee likes, and he's giving them a little bit of an opportunity here because you don't normally see them this early in the game with 1:36 remaining in the third quarter. But Alana Aguirre and Aaliyah Walker, they're players that need development on this Ball State team, so why not when you have a lead like this?
We have seen Glatchek and Simon sparsely tonight. Those two also back on the floor. The only regular out there right now, Kaylin Jose. And a foul on Simon. They bring Simon in a lot when they need a spark defensively. Pass first point guard. Not nearly the vision of Carmen Grande, but still a pretty reliable backup.
And she's more careful with the basketball. She's not going to take as many risks. So that's why they bring Brianna Simon into the basketball game when Carmen Grande struggled with turnovers in the first half.
McGuire is hammered into the Ball State bench. McGuire has ties to the Chicagoland area. Her dad played at DePaul, was a 2-time national champion for the Blue Demons. A much brighter time in North Chicago for DePaul back in the 70s. And the travel gives it back to Chicago State.
You know Alana Aguirre is still just churning at that first point of the season. She even had a mid-range jumper on that last play that she's called for a traveling violation, but a lot of these players love Alana Aguirre, her mindset and attitude, even though she doesn't get into the game as often. She still has the mindset in practice, and I know a lot of players very close to Alana Aguirre, even though she's more of that team player.
Backdoor pass for Walker, can't handle it.
At this point in the basketball game, though, don't expect Chicago State to roll over. They're down 28, but this is a team that just continues to show fight. They were down the entire game against Northern Illinois, and they continued to fight in the fourth quarter, and really, for the Cougars, their best quarter is the fourth quarter.
Nix for 3, clips the rim. Offensive rebound, Thomas sticks it back.
Fantastic save, and that's just energy, saving the basketball from going out of bounds on the baseline to create an opportunity for Chicago State to get another look at the basket.
Ball State holding for the last shot here in the third quarter. Simon waiting for a screen. Now Simon isolates and blocked from behind, fouled with .4.
It's amazing the ability for Brianna Simon to get to the free throw line. That's really all she's done in her career. Is she's not a prolific scorer. Her career high in her junior year is 3 points. But she continues to get to the free throw line, and that's where she creates her offensive opportunities. And you just think if she can get to the free throw line twice tonight, she really has the opportunity to break her career high if she gets all 4 to go.
Well, she's so nimble at 5'5", she could turn that corner so quickly. And she goes 1 of 2 from the free throw line. End of the third quarter. It's well in hand for Ball State, 64-37. Carmen Grande putting on a show for her parents tonight.
And Grande's been doing it all over the offensive floor for Ball State, lobbing it down to Bennett and getting the Cardinals in transition.
Happy December. Cue the Christmas music, baby. Ball State spent their Thanksgiving in Savannah, Georgia, where they lost 2 of 3, including an overtime thriller against East Carolina. That score not indicative of how competitive that game was.
Well, really, it's East Carolina took control in overtime, and I know that this Ball State team crumbled a little bit in overtime, but I think that can be posed as a learning experience moving forward for the Cardinals, and just getting the opportunity to go to Savannah, Georgia and play that type of competition only bodes well for Ball State moving forward.
Ball State with the regulars back in to start the 4th quarter. Bennett on the slip has Ball State up 66-37. 9:30 to go in the 4th. That Auburn game also a tough result that saw Ball State lose Jill Morrison. Auburn ran away with that one in the second half after Morrison went out with a separated shoulder. As Nix pulls up from the free throw line. Monaco on the teardown. And a turnover to Chicago State, but Ball State not outmatched physically in that game against the Tigers.
It was really the offensive end for Ball State. Auburn, one of the top 10 defenses in the country, really, for college basketball. So Ball State just struggled to score against the Tigers, and that's really what doomed them, and as well as turning the ball over on the offensive end. I don't think they ever really clicked, but you mentioned the injury to Jill Morrison. You never know with a type of leader that Jill Morrison is and the type of three-point shooter and the capabilities that she has on the floor. East Carolina and Auburn could have looked a lot differently had she not gotten that shoulder injury.
Nix on the 3 for Chicago State. They played a vaunted 3-2 full court press. Don't see that very often.
And it's really not indicative of what the score ended up being. 54-40. It seems like one of those low-end scoring games when both teams are just playing great half-court defense, but Auburn was full-court pressure all night, and it seemed like Ball State never could figure out a system to beat that press, and Auburn just continued to run it.
Bennett has 2 for the Cardinals. Ball State has challenged themselves the past couple of years. They saw Louisville, they've seen Colorado, saw Florida last year. And Coach Sally has talked about making the MAC a 2-bid league. Not likely to happen this year, although there are still 2 undefeateds in this league. But still at this point, the 9th best conference according to the RPI. Only going to get 1 in to the tournament in March.
Yeah, most likely that's the case, but there are so many talented teams in the Mid-American Conference. Ohio in the MAC East Division. Buffalo ended up winning the MAC East last season. Ohio only lost 2 games, 3 games that is, overall, including the tournament in conference play. All 3 came against Buffalo, so that shows how Buffalo just had Ohio's number last season, and Ohio was such a good team, but like you said, didn't get into the tournament because they did not win the Mid-American Conference tournament.
Ball State with Frazier, and the putback by Washington. She has a new career high with 18.
And in her young career here at Ball State, a transfer from Loyola, Destiny Washington has definitely shown the capabilities that she has at that power forward position. She's turned Ball State into that up-tempo style this season. I think Brady Sallee loves that style and definitely will move forward with the lineup he has coming back even next year, with ladies like Franny Frazier, Mariah Monaco, and Carmen Grande leading the charge.
Monaco with the 3 and thud off the front of the rim. Thomas on the rebound. 30-point lead for Ball State. You can tell that Washington much happier here than she was at Loyola. Here's Sanders with the scoop.
I think any time you go 6-25 your freshman year in a program, I think you're going to be more happy at Ball State because of just the program tradition and the winning atmosphere that you throw yourself into, even though you do have to sit out a year with the NCAA rules.
It was an adverse situation there in Loyola. 6 transfers, including Washington, out of Loyola, with some tensions between that Loyola Ramblers team and their head coach, Cheryl Swoops. Here's Monaco, scoops it off the window. After a quiet first half, she quietly has 16. Timeout for Chicago State allows Ball State to get subs back in. That could be the last run that Ball State has with their starters here tonight.
Ball State really has done it all tonight with the defensive pressure, 74-42, the Cardinals all over Chicago State.
Carmen Grande with a game-high 13 assists. A lot of them have been for that player right there, Destiny Washington.
Well, Destiny Washington, a statistic that maybe doesn't even get talked about enough. 9 of 13 from the floor tonight for 18 points. Also 12 rebounds, giving her a double-double, and tied with the team high of 4 steals. She just does it all with her length and athleticism, really bringing a new style that Ball State hasn't had in previous years.
With Jill Morrison out, seems like she's broken free, playing a little bit liberated.
Well, they're playing more with the traditional lineup as well in the power forward, and that's Destiny Washington moving away from Mariah Monaco at that 4 position, but Washington has really thrived and taken that role by storm.
Aaliyah Walker with the lay-in for Ball State. They have their 2s back in.
And even with Ball State's 2s, they're keeping with the same style. You saw the push in the fast break to Morgan Glatchek, the center, running the floor for the Cardinals.
Allen hops in, too strong. Walker with the 2-hand snatch for the rebound. Frazier with a hop. Chicago State gets it back. So Carmen Grande and the Ball State starters likely done for the night. With 13 assists for Grande, she has set the Worthen Arena record. That via our statistician tonight, Action Jackson Kaiser. For Chicago State, it doesn't really get much easier after this. Serta to Thomas for a Knicks 3. And she's on net.
When Chicago State has gotten the looks on the outside that they want, they really have put them down with ease. From the 3-point line tonight, only 9 of 27, but still they've been effective from the outside when they get the looks and have the time to get a quick release.
Walker again for Ball State. It's not like this is a completely incompetent team. They just struggle with depth. Only having 8 players dressed, and it seems like that catches up with them most times than not.
And I think against their non-conference schedule especially, I think that when you get into non-conference play and you're trying to challenge your team, which clearly Angela Jackson is in her 14th season at Chicago State, she's putting non-conference opponents on the schedule that are going to make the Cougars better for their conference play in the Western Athletic Conference. So although they're losing a lot of games to start off the year, as you said, they're not necessarily a completely incompetent team. They just don't have the depth, and maybe once conference play comes along, they can get some players playing a little bit better of play, and in the games they'll have more success against those lesser conference opponents.
Walker with 6 straight for Ball State. First look at Megan Walton tonight for the Cardinals, and she commits the foul, reaching in on Allen. Look at Walton. She has that big white brace on her left knee. She's a local player from Hamilton Southeastern High School in Fishers, but dealt with an ACL injury her senior year and is still trying to get back to full health.
Well, yeah, Brady Selly has stated that she's not 100% back from that knee injury a season ago in her senior year, and averaging 15 points at Fishers High School before injuring that knee in her senior campaign. But I think Brady Selly always likes to get her any action that they can, even if it's a little bit at the end of the game. Even with her knee not at 100%, that doesn't mean that she has a chance of re-injuring it. I think Ball State's taking a very cautious approach to her return.
That's Walton on the top of your screen in the corner, and she has a touch here. She said that the little things even get to her with that knee still being sore. She said that when it's rainy and when it's cold, it gets tight. Something that you wouldn't really expect, and it's Walker again.
Walker has absolutely taken over this second unit for Ball State. Already 8 points coming into the game, and Ball State's shown that when she's in the game, they like to feed her down low, even with the likes of Morgan Glatchek in, who sees more time.
Thomas Shellis for Cliff. Jumper short. Here's Simon in rhythm. Got the floater to go. That got the bench excited. Renee Bennett's night might be done on the floor, but never emotionally. She was the first one up after that lay-in by Simon.
It's fantastic to see the bench come together with this second unit. And you see it almost every game that Ball State can get their starters rest. They like to do that, and the starters will always go back on the bench, and they don't check out of the game. They really bring the energy on the bench and encourage this second unit. And with this free throw, Brianna Simon could have had her opportunity at her career high.
There's Luthia Fernandez making an immediate impact. She got pushed from behind.
Lee talked about Fernandez and how this offseason Ball State tried to simplify things for her. She's one of those other players from Madrid, Spain. We talked about Carmen Grande earlier in the broadcast, but with a huge language barrier coming in last season, she seemed a little bit confused, but they've made it only that she plays the power forward position so she doesn't have to think as much out on the floor.
Serta with her first points in the second half after 11 in half number 1. Simon loses it on the way up. Fernandez broke her hand last year. Here's the Simon drive. And Fernandez up top to Walker. Walker knifes in. Fernandez, when she broke her foot, she was coming off a stretch out in Colorado during their Thanksgiving tournament last year where she played pretty well against Florida. Had 11 points, but then hampered by that hand the rest of the year.
Hey, you don't really know what her development could have been for the season in her freshman year. She had a language barrier speaking Spanish, but also in the Ohio Valley game is when she broke her hand, and that was subsequently the game that she had a career-high 16 points against a Division II opponent in Ohio Valley. But Still, Luthia Fernandez came in and almost acted like it was just a pickup game, running down the floor, knifing through defenders, but she was very effective, and then it almost took her until the next day, until she realized that her hand was hurting, that she went to the trainer and realized there was something wrong structurally with that hand.
She reels down the rebound for Ball State. Inside 2 minutes to go. They can get her to run the floor and soften her hands a little bit, as she has it go right through her hands on the post feed. She can be a pretty darn good player. And one for Harris for Chicago State. Walton in that restricted circle.
Talked about that restricted circle earlier. It's so hard for a defender to get over, but good recognition from Destiny Harris to attack the basket on the left side for Chicago State. In transition, you realize that the defense is a little bit late in transition. Just attack the basket and hope for a foul, and she concentrated on the rim as well and got the basket to go.
Harris misses the and one attempt. Harris played at Iowa Western Community College and played for a guy by the name of Jim Turgeon, as Walker now is in double figures. But basketball fans may recognize the last name Turgeon, Corey. Mark Turgeon, the head coach on the men's side for Maryland. Thomas slices in and gets the bounce.
That Maryland program really has taken a step forward in men's basketball, with a lot of players cycling in and out. Players like Diamond Stone that were in the NBA draft this past season. Aaliyah Walker is rather Alana Aguirre with the jumper, but that's her first career points at Ball State, and it's nice to see the bench erupt after that play.
Guess it's moments like those and a blowout like this that keep the bench active. And Fernandez with the board. And a timeout for Ball State. They'll get a substitute in, Nakia Penny. Nakia Penny, the lightly used sophomore guard.
Kia Penny played alongside a Miss Basketball candidate for Indiana, Whitney Jennings, who Ball State will not see against Butler on Sunday because Whitney Jennings transferred from Iowa to Butler, but she has to sit out this season because of NCAA rules.
Simon crosses over on Serta. It's back tapped. Ball State has it with 3 to shoot, and perhaps one last chance to work on a out of timeout type set.
Brady Salih takes every moment in a basketball game seriously, so he wants to see his team produce.
And Simon, as the horn sounds, long in Chicago State, has one more trivial possession. The 3 from Serta is short. And with 3 to go, Chicago State with one more crack.
Here's a chance for Chicago State to work on their inbound set.
Serta at the horn. It's an air ball. And that's the exclamation point for that kind of night for Chicago State. They come into Worthen Arena and fall 88-53 here against Ball State. We'll be back with post-game analysis after this on ESPN3.
It worked out because they actually gave us 2 minutes, so we have a little bit more time. We're going to head over. All right.
Is that your good side?
Typically, is that your good side?
Good.
Okay, this works
I
out
got
for
2
us.
good sides.
I think we... a minute still? Oh, okay. I guess a little time. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I came to practice the other day.
Yeah, I saw
Thanks
you up
for
there.
letting me hang
Yeah,
out
anytime.
for a little bit.
You can come whenever. Don't even have to ask.
Okay, so just sit up there and watch.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you, yeah. Okay, sounds good. Hands like start shaking and like my heart like beats a lot. Unfortunately, I just any better experience. Yeah, it's awesome.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Okay. I feel more relaxed this time.
There you go.
Yeah. 15. Coach Atoya Sander has been a lead player for Chicago State all season, and you held her to just 5 points tonight. How is your team able to do that?
Well, you know, we've kind of done it all year, to be honest with you. We really can focus on a game plan, and our kids did a great job of understanding what was important. And, you know, it starts with Renee and Morgan, our bigs, but then, you know, you got to have a ton of help against a player like that. And I think we were just locked in on making sure she didn't hurt us and had to make somebody else score for them. And then when that player did it, we adjusted to that, and I thought we did a good job in the second half on number 30 and kind of kept her from going crazy on us. I was really happy with what we did defensively.
And you mentioned that game plan tonight. How did the game end up going compared to how you expected it to go?
Yeah, you know, at times it was a little bit sloppy, but I wanted us to play really fast, and I wanted the tempo to be there. They had just played a couple nights ago, so I wanted to take advantage of that. Plus, they had to travel, of course. So we've been chomping at the bit to get back going. We've been off for a little bit, and I thought you saw a little bit of rust just with the little bit of layoff we had. But all in all, you know, the tempo was what it was all about. I thought we played at a pace that they had to make a decision whether to keep up or not, and at times they didn't.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
That was Allison Luthman with Ball State women's basketball coach Brady Sally, Connor Onion, and Corey Stace here wrapping things up on a Ball State 88-53 win over Chicago State tonight. And Corey, it was the assists of Carmen Grande, 13 of them, the scoring of Destiny Washington, and then that full court smothering press for Ball State.
Well, you heard Brady Sally talk about it. He wanted the up-tempo style from Ball State, and we saw plenty of that on the defensive end, getting active hands, they call it. Hands in the passing lanes. We see all of these highlights, just players getting their hands on the basketball and moving it in transition the other way. That resulted in a lot of fast break points for Ball State and gave them easy looks at the basket, and that resulted in women like Destiny Washington and Carmen Grande having great nights.
They took a page out of West Virginia's book, looking like Press Virginia here tonight. As we take a look at the statistics here before we wrap things up, Ball State with the 88-53 win. Look at the points in the paint. That told the story tonight for Ball State.
Well, they did it with fast break points, but when they got in their half-court set, it was almost all in the paint with Renee Bennett and Destiny Washington, so that was huge for Ball State tonight.
Ball State looks ahead now to Butler on Sunday at 2 o'clock tip. The next game here in Worthen Arena is for the men's team. That's on Saturday afternoon. IUPUI Sports Link has you covered for a 2 o'clock tip here on ESPN3. The final here tonight, Ball State 88, Chicago State 53. This has been an ESPN3 production. For Corey Stace, I'm Connor Onion with sideline reporter Allie Luthman and producer Allison Wilson. We say goodnight to watch this game on replay on the ESPN family of networks or on WatchESPN.com.